Hi, friends. This is the Circle of Hope Pastors with our weekly video cast on subjects that people have asked us either this week or over the years. This one's been coming up a lot. Why does it seem like being part of the church is so demanding? The word demand has been on people's lips all week, so let's think about it together. Ben, you want to get us started?
Sure. Um, I think the first really quick answer is that Jesus is pretty demanding. Um, you can't get over it if you read the New Testament. He speaks in a way that I don't know, maybe we're unaccustomed to the sort of directness of the way that he calls his disciples to follow him. He means business, and he gave us some hard work to do. So my first answer is the church seems demanding because it's kind of demanding to be a Christian.
I'm
Wow, that wouldn't have been my first answer, um, because when I think of Jesus, I think of when he says things like, "My yoke is easy and my burden is light," um, and when he tells us that all things are possible with God. Um, so I feel that free gift of grace, and I think when I'm putting on my true self, I don't feel so much demand from Jesus. However, the church can be demanding, partly because our leaders are sometimes demanding and they've imported that from the world, or we've imported the expectation from wherever else, our family, our jobs, any number of things that we need to perform at a certain level. And so sometimes we bring our own demands and then blame them on someone else.
Well, but even with the comfort that you gave, Jesus is offering us a yoke, a way to be an oxen, to pull the plow for someone else. And there's other sort of rabbinical metaphors in what he's doing, but it
Truly.
is something that we are not accustomed to. I think as 21st century Americans, no, I'm not going to be a servant. Paul says all the time that he's a slave to Christ. It's foreign, and we have to. You're talking about true self. That's of course that's different, but I think we're not all into our true selves. We're not all transformed. We're not all saved. We need to be saved, and part of that is to be um, a servant, really hardcore.
Well, maybe that's the thing that we need to help people with as we're talking here, because I think a lot of people don't understand maybe this idea of old self and new self that Paul's talking about, this leaving behind what it used to be like when we were subject to the things of the world. And I can't imagine that anyone wouldn't feel like the things of the world aren't demanding because they enslave us to all sorts of weird things like paying taxes for the military industrial complex, and it's a constant criticism of whether my, body is the right shape. So there's this, that the church can easily end up feeling like another one of those things that it's all about what I can't do and what I'm not doing and what someone's mad at me about or criticizing me for. Yet in the new self, where Jesus has freed us from all that nonsense that we're trying to move into that, I feel like knowing Christ is an opportunity, not a demand. I get to live as my true self. What a wonder. No one can like demand that of me. It's a gift. So how could it possibly end up being a demand? I think that's just a cruel kind of undermining of Jesus to make his gift of life a demand. Yikes.
But you can see why people that are trained by that world and trained by their old self would create a coercive, demanding environment where you're not good enough unless you do one thing or another. Um, Jesus doesn't have that kind of expectation of us, but I think, like you're saying, he gives us an opportunity to be transformed. And sometimes that transformation, that undoing of that worldly demand, feels demanding.
Well, I totally agree. I'm trained by that system too. Despite my best efforts, I can uh, kick against the goads as much as the best of them. I wanna have my own time. I want to, uh, just kind of turn off when one of the things I was talking about at the public meeting last Sunday was our time is decided by our capitalist work and leisure model. We're either working or we're in leisure. So if I'm not at work, that time is absolutely mine, and I need to use it for the best fun possible. And if I'm not like in ecstasy the whole time, I'm wasting my life, my precious leisure that the man has only given me 4 waking hours of. Uh, so I feel that, and I feel for people that are in that sort of dichotomy. And I was trying to help us redefine our time, have fun at work, love Jesus at work, and figure out how to just scheme all kinds of ways to receive that yoke and have it be our opportunity, our calling, our reason for living. It redeems all our time. For me, that I've experienced that, but I still am recovering from the old way.
Sure. Yeah, I'm having fun at work right now. This is great. The Another thing I was thinking while both of you were talking was I think in the church when it's so personal that I can be pretty demanding just because I'm needy and I need people to love me and I want things from them. So we get connected to this whole church full of people, and I think it can be scary for a lot of people who don't connect very well and might not even want to. And they get engaged with these people with these big ideas and a lot of needs, and just this whole demand that love should rule the world. And I think that just might kind of tip off a whole reaction, that I
Hmm.
need to figure out if I trust you, if I can really get so connected to you, and then what? And then we're going to actually do something together too. Well, that's a lot to ask for people, and so we probably should be patient with them as they're trying to figure all that out.
Yep, I think you're right. The opposite to the worldly demand is the reality that you can probably get by pretty unnoticed. You might be able to get a job at a company and browse Facebook for most of the day, not get any attention. No one knows what you're doing, and you're collecting your paycheck and going home, In the church, you get noticed. You count. What you contribute means something. Someone's going to know your name and make a relationship with you. In an isolated postmodern world, that kind of attention from Jesus and his followers could feel like a demand too.
So, what do you say to people who are feeling this? As we're closing up here, how do you encourage them if they're feeling this and they don't know how to get out of it?
It's a good question. I would say spend some time with Jesus and have him heal you. And it's not like a snap thing, but specifically, I would say be quiet, take deep breaths, say "I belong to God" in your head for 20 minutes. That's my prescription.
And maybe not blame your fears on something that's outside of you all the time, as if it really is just bearing down on you and trying to force you into something. You're more free than that. You don't have to just be run around by some fear, or even if you think it is an unreasonable demand, you're
Yeah.
still okay.
And I think that
I would,
doing that practice actually diffuses those fears. If you, because you'll encounter in the silence, you'll encounter those fears, and if you're just kind of letting them go and observing them, and there's a whole practice of meditative prayer that is worth discovering, but it gets at that stuff really well, and God gets at it too with you.
yeah, I
What were
think
you gonna say, Tony?
dwelling on the freedom that Jesus gives us is a great place to be. Um, Kind of go back to that free gift that you received, that Jesus gave you and that you accepted. You didn't have to work for it, you just had to receive it. It's kind of fundamental for a lot of us. It's kind of the starting point of our faith. The whole point is that we're transformed, and we're one with Jesus. We're crucified with him, but we still live. This gift of life is happening. And when time feels like it's crushing down on you, remember, we really do have a whole eternity to do this work, and eternity starts now with Jesus. And so all the pressures and anxiety of the world are free in this endless life that we share with him.
Yeah, so maybe this time we can just say, note the word. We've all been thinking about this word this week, so why don't you think about it too? And when the idea or the feeling or just the word demand, or you can name something a demand, comes up, you really do take that to Christ and pause a minute before you just react and just get tied up with it, or get imperiled by it, or disconnected from someone because of it. So pray it through. Thanks for listening, and we'll get back to you again next time. Share this, as we always say, if you feel like it, but we hope you'll talk about it, and talk about it to God. Talk about it to us if you need to, too. The comment section's below. Have a good day. I can get this stuff.